Let's see. Hello, hello. Yes. You see the meters? Yes. Yes.
Testing.
I've never seen such a fancy iPad.
Yeah,
iPhone
that's
video setup there. It's a lot of equipment for one iPad. You still need a big suitcase for that.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you all for showing up. We have a really cool panel now. It's called Monetizing OTT Beyond Subscriptions, and we're going to be talking exactly that, some of the ways that companies are monetizing this booming OTT market. Quick table set here. A lot of times you probably heard OTT and CTV and wondered why are they different, how are they different. So CTV, which is connected TV, is a subset of OTT. It's that part of OTT which is actually watched on a television set. And most studies have it as being somewhere between 80 and 90% of long-form OTT content is actually watched on a television set. So therefore, most OTT is CTV. So anyway, we have, what's interesting about this panel is we have three people who represent very different sort of elements of the whole monetization puzzle. So I'm going to, starting with Andre Swanston, I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what their company does, and then we'll get into the conversation. So take it away, Andre.
Hi, my name is Andre Swanston. I'm the CEO of TrueOptic. TrueOptic is a data management, audience measurement, and privacy compliance company working across the over-the-top and connected TV ecosystem. We power a lot of the data targeting and privacy compliance for most of the big ad tech platforms, everything ranging from an AppNexus, a Trade Desk, a SpotX, and others across connected TV and OTT.
My name is Yilmaz Schoen. I'm founder and CEO of Tradecast. Tradecast is a next-generation OTT cloud provider. We do a real end-to-end solution in the market. And we combine VOD assets with live broadcasting, live inserts, and scheduled linear TV from the cloud. We really want to deliver a complete set of technology for our clients so they can really focus on all the monetization and don't need the monetization to pay back the whole investment of the OTT platform. Since we deliver our technology in a SaaS model, so we really want to lower the level of getting into the OTT market and really have a good chance of have a successful monetization of your content.
My name is Joe Wang. I'm a Chief Science Officer at SimWave. At SimWave, we put human visual system into software, and we measure the quality of experience of end users. We do monitoring and optimization for both VOD and live. Thanks.
Okay, great. So I want to start off, one of the big surprises of the past year, 6 months, has been the rapid growth of what we've been calling the FAST, the free ad-supported streaming TV services. Things like Roku TV, Tubi, Pluto, which just got bought by Viacom. Now, and what's amazing about that is that none of these services have anything on them other than hit movies from the 80s and 90s, things like Legally Blonde or Caddyshack, and old sitcoms. Yet, Andre, I mean, have you been seeing huge uptake in the amount of interest in advertising on there, and why do you think that is, and how are you guys dealing with that?
So most of the free ad-supported large services across OTT are our clients, and we've been working with many of them for a couple of years now. So that growth is, I think the industry is just noticing, but it's been growing pretty exponentially for the last 3 years or so. And I think for a couple of reasons. One, free is free, and it's very hard to compete with when you turn on your LG Smart TV or you turn on your Samsung Smart TV by default without having Netflix, without having validating your cable subscription. There's these apps like Pluto TV or Zumo that you can just turn on and have dozens of channels that are streaming live, or it can be a VOD. The other thing that I would say that a lot of people don't realize is the content is, yes, there's a ton of the old licensed sitcoms or 80s and 90s movies, but a lot of these solutions like Pluto and Zumo also have news day of from NBC and Bloomberg and CBS. And so there's a good mixture now of live current content as well as kind of the nostalgic on demand. And I think a lot of these companies have also done a better job than some of the broadcast networks in terms of leveraging data to have more relevant advertising to their audience and experience better.
So that's interesting. So just to go back to something you were saying, so they sort of have gotten themselves built into the platform on LG and other TV sets?
Yeah, so yes, in the case of Zoom and all the new LG smart TVs, solution that's on all the new Vizio smart TVs is powered by Pluto. I mean, these apps are, I say all the time, if you think of what broadcast over the air television was in the 1980s, you buy a television, the expectation in the 1980s was you turn it on and you have a certain amount of channels for free. I think that's becoming the same expectation that people have now with smart TVs. If I buy my smart TV, I'm going to have a certain amount of content for free. And these companies moved way earlier than everybody else, and they've been able to take advantage of that.
Cool. And can you talk a little bit about how they're using data? So they're doing addressable advertising on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Both in direct sales, direct to agencies and brands, as well as programmatically through supply-side platforms like SpotX and Beachfront and Telaria and others. They have the ability that if you want to only reach 18 to 34-year-old male ComScore homes or only IHS in-market for pickup truck homes, you can do that at 100%.
Right. That's cool. Now, Yilmaz, you and I were talking earlier about a different segment in the market that's been growing, which is these niche platforms, right? So do you want to talk about how you're seeing that growing and the monetization options around that?
I think one of the important things also for the free applications with ad-supported is being for free is not the most important thing, but they really use the opportunity also with the television vendors to have quality apps and content on their platforms. And if you have companies like LG and Samsung, you can make great deals if you have great content in the app for them to promote them. And we see the same with niche channels. So and niche or special interest channels, you could think of really small things, but basically they're really big. And you have quality content on there, special content for people's interests. And you really see people wanting to pay or wanting to do an effort for those kinds of networks. And it could be in fishing, in sports. We launched the All Guitar Network. It's a network about guitar players, made by guitar players, like some famous guitarists are involved. And you directly see that's being picked up by people who have a passion for something. And people with passion for something are willing to pay. And so it doesn't have to be for free.
Cool. And what do you think? What do you think will eventually happen with those channels? Do you think they'll sort of remain on their own? Do you think other people are going to snap them up?
Well, basically, we know that if everything that gets big has a potential of being caught by something else. But if you look like markets like that worldwide, you have 50 million guitarists worldwide playing the guitar. So a niche market is a big market as well. So they can stay independent or be part of something else or be a part of a brand. But there are hundreds of those potential subjects that could be really lucrative monetization and OTT channels.
Right. And how do those guys market themselves? Are they just going through Facebook or through like social media to kind of get the word out?
Yeah, so in this case we have some famous guitar players involved, so they have a following and they really harvest back from social, because what happened over the last few years, everybody got harvested into social, but if you have really a content platform with an interest, you can harvest them back in your own network. And on the other side, if you market something like this, and people get in touch with a real video platform in their niche, like the rates of getting somebody from an ad into a subscription are much more higher than anything else.
Gotcha. Now, Joe is doing something really interesting here. The quality of experience. This has become a big deal. As streaming has become much more ubiquitous, people are starting to realize, oh, wait, there's a huge difference between all the streams and how people experience it. So do you want to sort of explain what that involves and then how that affects monetization?
Yeah, so I think in terms of monetization of OTT, there are basically 4 things on the equation. So you have content, that's important, and business model, you go with AVOD, SVOD, or hybrid, that's important. But there are 2 other things that are also very important. One thing is quality delivery. So you have to deliver high quality content to end users' device so that people will watch that, right? So you can't give them crappy video. Another thing is about the cost, right? So how much money you have to put in this to make it happen, right? So that's why the other 2 sides also related to your business, and you have to select the best technology vendors to help you to deliver the best video, and also to optimize you such that you can achieve the best quality experience of end users. At the same time, you can save some money during distribution. But overall, you need a way basically to measure, to control all the time.
So are certain services now starting to say, hey, we can offer you a much better quality of experience. We will guarantee you that your ads are not going to buffer, versus our competitors, and thus you should pay us more money.
Yeah, so that's related to the exactly how you're going to measure the performance of your technology vendor, how they do that. So you need measurement on the true what we call the true quality experience of end users. That is something like directly predicting how humans would say about the quality of video once they are watching that video, experiencing that video on their device. They are looking at the pixels and they're gonna maybe suffer from rebuffering event, switching from high quality to low quality into high quality, and all these things should be taken into account, and to have overall measurement of quality of experience. That's the final thing we want to have in terms of evaluating how good you have done the job in terms of video delivery.
Right, that's interesting. So one of the things I want to talk about is, there's a lot of data that is being used to sort of make these ads addressable. Addressable, just because I realize not everybody familiar, addressable means that all 4 of us could be watching the same show at the same time, and we'd each see a different commercial based on our demographics, our location, even our previous buying habits. And that's something that's commonplace on digital, but has never really been done before on TV. It's certainly not on linear TV, but now, thanks to OTT, it's starting to happen. So now, Andre, do you see, one of the things we heard, we just did this big report on ad-supported OTT, and one of the things we heard is, gosh, there's no way, nobody's really sure where all this data is, how these data sources match up from A to B, from vendor to vendor. How are you seeing that playing out over the next few years, and how do we get some sort of standardization in terms? I know you guys are working on that.
So when you say data sources match up from A to B, what? Just so
the segmentation data. I'm sorry, the segmentation data. In other words, one app may have one definition of a segment, another has a second definition, and how do you kind of make sure everybody's talking about the same thing?
Yeah, I think what our thought process on that was that you have, because there's so much fragmentation across over-the-top and connected TV, it's really important to have a consistent, scalable data strategy. And the way we've done that is we've created a household. 80 million homes in the United States have a persistent identifier, and that identifier can then be matched back to the IP address of domicile, to the device IDs, the user agent strings, and all the other identifiers in the home. And then we went out and we negotiated appending rights of data with pretty much everybody that matters in the data space, from the Oracles to the ComScores to the TransUnions, the IHS for auto, Kantars, etc. And so our thought process was on that. You don't want to go to Roku and have one data strategy there, and then have another data strategy on Apple TV, and another data strategy for Hulu, and another one for NBC, because that's just not scalable or feasible for a brand or an advertiser. And so by being able to map everything to a persistent household graph, so that the data that you use from ComScore on an Apple TV or Roku or Samsung is all tied back to the same large ecosystem, or the data used from Oracle, etc., we find that makes advertisers much more confident in the targeting that they're getting, and it makes it so that there's real value going back to the publishers or the device manufacturers in terms of, well, how large is your audience? How engaged are they with the content? As instead of having arguments about who really had an 18 to 34-year-old or not. So I think it's really just having consistency, and that's one of the things that we've been working on since 2015 probably.
Right, Yilmaz.
Yeah, I agree that consistency in all the data over all the platforms is really, really important. And that way you can also give the right technical data to the ad insertion companies. And my opinion of that is that we have a lot more data than they can handle at the moment, and sometimes that's something that has to be improved in the future as well. And as of monetization of content, one of the things we thought about is that there is more than only an ad insertion. So one of the things we did is we have like interactive overlays over content, so you have more options to do other kinds of deals that will bring you a revenue. So for instance, we do a cooking channel, and if you're watching somebody who is making the menu, you can, with a shopping cart, put all the groceries in the shopping cart groceries of the vendor of that channel or the partner of that channel. So besides of the like monetizations in the way we know there, if you have control over your network and your technology, there are much more things we can think of that are really important for monetizations of OTT.
Right. That's the whole advanced advertising thing. I mean, do you see that? Do you see people asking for that more? I mean, I'll throw that open to everybody else too. But do you see people start looking at like, okay, can we do stuff with T-commerce? Can we do stuff, just beyond the traditional ad unit?
Yeah, we see that in a lot of things that are coming up, where even big retail stores are starting their own platforms in this way, and they combine content that's already there, and even start working on original content. And if you combine that with a revenue model they already know, and you can power that revenue via the OTT platform, it gives a lot of new opportunities.
Are you guys seeing that in with your clients?
Yeah, I think there are some really amazing things that can be done with interactive ads. There's some companies like Brightline and Clinch and Innovid that do some great things in that area. You are starting to see some e-commerce directly on the smart TV. There's really no scale there yet, but there's a lot of opportunity, I think, in terms of that. But I think the thing that is overwhelmingly the largest growing opportunity is really that audience-based targeting or advertising. So as opposed to just being reliant on ratings or indexing of what type of audience watches a particular show, really being able to say, I really don't care what show you're watching as long as it's brand safe, or what device you're on. If you're in market for a pickup truck and I'm Chevy, I want you to see my ad. Or if I'm a financial institution and you have household income over 100K, I want you to hear about my financial advisors. And so I think the beauty of OTT and addressable TV through set-top boxes, which has already kind of been passed by OTT, is that ability to have that precision targeting and the efficiency that it provides for advertisers.
Cool. Now, Joe, I wanted to circle back to you and the whole notion of the quality of experience. So now, why is it that my understanding is that ads sometimes come from a different are served up from a different server than the main part of the program? So how does that all work? And what can you do to ensure that the experience is equal?
Yeah, so it's some interesting discussion about the targeted ads. I think that's going to be the trend. So. As a technologist, I would say to do the ads correct, that's not trivial in terms of technology. Actually, just to share probably some personal experience, when I watch some OTT service and suddenly some ads jumps out, and the quality of the ad clip was so bad, and if I'm the advertiser, I would take that out. That shows the things I'm trying to sell looks pretty bad, right? So And actually, from our experience measuring video quality with programming plus ads, we got a lot of cases that the quality between programming and ads is going to jump up and down. And you see a very inconsistency in some of the quality over there. So that's something you have to do very careful, right? So that's the ad part. In the case of the future OTT, we're going to see more targeted ads. So this becomes even more important.
Right, but what can, if I'm a service, say I'm the Roku channel or I'm Pluto, what can I do to make sure that the ads that the ads are getting served up and have the same quality as the rest of my programming?
So just like I said earlier, so you pick the best technology providers to do the OTT service for you. But even that, you cannot leave it as is. You have to do monitoring. So the bottom line is you have to have a way to always measure the performance and always have a way to control that. And with the new technology, especially if you in this NAB, you see some presentations on 5G, and that's going to be probably some deployment and more and more deployment in the next few years. And then you could expect a mixture of 4G, 5G, 3G for quite some time. In order to do the service in that kind of a hybrid environment, you have to be very careful because different users will have different capacity, different bandwidth, and you have to deal with all these cases smoothly. So this is combined with ad insertion, all these kind of complications. So this is a technical challenge. But the bottom line is you have to have a way to measure the QoE real time and give you feedback. You have to have the way to control that.
Excellent. So I'm just going to throw out one more question about future, and then we'll take some questions. So, we have something coming up this year. We've been calling it the Flixcopolis, right? There's going to be all these new Netflix challengers coming out from Apple, Disney, Warner, NBCU, quite possibly a CBS Viacom combination. So, are we going to start seeing subscriber burnout? And what can people do to sort of combat that in their own services, especially when, and then I'll sort of put a second part to that. Do you expect that a lot of these services will have an AVOD component, or will they be strictly subscription? We'll start at the end with Andre there.
I don't think you're going to have subscriber burnout. I think you're just going to have subscriber prioritization. And so people are going to prioritize their top 2, maybe top 3 services. I've said on the record for a couple of years now, and a lot of people thought I was crazy, that I think Netflix is in big trouble at some point because there's...
I don't think you're crazy.
Well, you don't, but most people think we're both crazy then,
yeah.
Right? So, and this is because if you look at where the demand is for their audience and their subscribers, most of that content is going away. Disney and all the Marvel content, that drove a lot of it. The Warner Brothers content, that drove a lot of it. When Disney takes that away and Warner Brothers takes that away and Netflix is left with, I guess some cool stuff and their originals, are people going to, and they're increasing prices, are people, anybody with a kid is going to get Disney's solution, right? I mean, that's just hands down, everybody knows that if you have a kid, you have to get Disney's solution. And so that takes away a whole block of constituents. Netflix is trying to stay very true to not being ad-supported, where Amazon has launched a free ad-supported solution. You have the Pluto TVs that are growing, exponentially, that now have the backing of a major media company like Viacom. And so I think it's really just going to be people prioritizing maybe their top 2, max 3 paid solutions with the free solutions that are getting more and more content every day.
Cool. Yilmaz.
Yeah, I also think that there will be a top 2, top 3 for everybody to be involved in. On the other side, I really see it happening that those are platforms. So the niche platforms, you will have a couple of them as well, where you're involved in. One other thing I really strongly believe in for the future, and that's a concept we call like single source content distribution, that it doesn't necessarily needs to be played out on one platform if it's played out from the same source. So if you will be able, and something we're working on, to have a source of content that you completely control, and you will be able to display it on your own OTT platform, but you're also able to put it in a pool for major or other OTT platforms to do rev share or other methods of getting the content out there. I think that will be a great thing in the future. I really believe in that. And in the end, it doesn't matter where it's watched. If you are in control about your data and your revenues, you'll be potentially happy.
Oh, cool. Joe, we'll let you end up.
Yeah, so I think, of course, this is all, I think, content and market dependent, right? So you have to think about what kind of content you're distributing and what kind of market you're targeting at. And this is going to be a mixture of a lot of things.
Okay, very good. So we have time for a couple questions from the audience. If anybody wants to ask our esteemed panel, the gentleman in the blue shirt. You know what? I'm trying to think if I can get you my mic. Here you go. Thank you.
I'm accustomed to the way mics work. We all are aware of the fact that there was a similar proliferation of services in the travel industry, and Travelocity seems to have blended together all the other travel agencies, undoubtedly with a monetary advantage going to the individual agencies. A similar task could be done in drawing together the proliferation you're talking about here by a Travelocity type service to put this to the consumer. You can spend $240 a month on all the channels and use them each 0.1% per day, or you can subscribe to us and we will, for $35 a month, allow you to take your choice. So
what is your question? Do we think that
I wonder if you think that is something you four might want to get together and launch.
Okay, so the question is, do we think there'll be any sort of rebundling, as over the next few years?
So that's already happening. So Apple TV's Apple's new launch, their announcement a couple weeks ago, it does exactly what you're talking about. They're saying it's a portal for discovery, not only for Apple, new content, but the ability to pull in all of your other channels, whether it's free ad-supported stuff or your cable subscription channels for discovery, and you can do a la carte adding, and so that's already happening. There's other startups that tried to do that even 5 years ago, but were ahead of their time, and so everything that you're saying is kind of already happening.
Yeah, I mean, I would also add that we think there's going to be some rebundling, whether it'll probably be through Roku and Amazon, as all this churn that everybody was talking about is going to start happening with people prioritizing. Wouldn't be very surprised for Roku to say, okay, we're going to give you Disney Flix, Warner Flix, and Amazon together. You sign up for a full year, you get 20% off, or even the individual services. Say, Netflix saying, okay, rather than go month to month, you commit to us for 2 years, and we'll take 25% off the monthly price, just as a way for subscriber retention and to reduce churn. Okay, one last question.
You see many of this AVOD, Pluto, etc., getting into a hybrid sort of model, freemium, where they get some sort of subscriber revenue as well. And then also, if you see them being able to sell some of those premium contents like Disney, using that big base that they have to upsell them some of their premium SVOD services.
Well, not commenting on any one particular one to not get myself in trouble. But in general, I think that there's tons of opportunity for those solutions when you have 15, 20, 25, 30 million active monthly users. You can do a lot of things. You can play around with different ways to monetize that. And so whereas a solution like Pluto, for example, originally everything was live, right, almost like a cable, and then they added on the ability to watch movies and TV shows in VOD. I'm sure that with a big company like Viacom behind them now, when you have tens of millions of people leveraging your content on a monthly basis across, you can do anything to try to figure out how to monetize that. But I do think that most of these solutions are going to stay true at core to being ad supported, because that's really their big differentiator and what's allowed them to be really successful.
Yeah, I also think that they'll stay true for a big part, but they have lots of opportunities with those kinds of audience to monetize in other ways. But still, one important fact is also there. There are still lots and lots of content on shelves not being on any platform at this moment. So lots of companies I talk to, producers, if it's our concerts or other films, movies, series, we have a lot of OTT platforms with a lot of content, but there's more and more content out there that's not being monetized in any way yet, and there's a big future for that as well.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're getting the hook on time here. So thank you guys very, very much for participating. Thank you all in the audience, and we'll be around. Thank you.
welcome. Thank you for joining us for AI's impact on monetization and measurement. We've got a great panel of experts for you, so I'm going to I'm Larry Irving. I'm the moderator for the panel. I'm out of Washington, D.C. We've got a global panel, so I'm going to let the gentlemen introduce themselves and a little bit about the companies they work with and what they do.
Cool. Hey guys, Will Jameson, I'm CEO of the Q. We're an interactive gaming platform that can sit inside mobile applications to really activate and engage your audience through live trivia and other ways.
Hey everyone, my name is Ben. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Anzu. In one sentence, we created a new kind of advertising ecosystem for gaming and esports. We sometimes like to call it blended in-game advertising because the ads blend into the game world on game object and become a part of them.
Hello everybody, my name is Jeronimo Macanas. I'm co-founder and CEO in Jump. And at Jump, what we do is we help video service providers to really make an impact with AI on their business. So we really believe that AI should be focused on this new era in the business space. Operational, it's been great, and the outcomes has been great. But business AI is something that it's quite new. We all can take a lot of advantages.
All right, Geronimo, let me start with you. I'll start this way and come back. Okay. You talk about businesses using AI. First, we all hear AI. AI is the flavor of the month. 3 years ago, if we'd been here, no one was talking about AI. Define AI, and then tell us a little bit how you think businesses are using it today and how they should be using it.
Okay, so for me, AI is more like a process, something that people are using AI for almost everything. And the idea is that sometimes using AI, you can make things more efficient and in a very optimized way compared with the manual, traditional human beings tasks. That's the general definition and applies for every single industry, actually. So in the media space, I think AI, it's been progressing quite good. I think in the operational space, all regarding workflows, or regarding monitoring, quality of experience, all these operational tasks are being automated with great and successful outcomes. And I think actually the business guys really need to see that AI is going to help to their business. So very simple thing like personalization or making decisions that usually takes a lot of time needs to be addressed now with AI to really make it almost immediately, as the end consumer is totally promiscuous now in the video space. So I think there's a huge potential. I think more and more companies, some of our customers, we work with Fox, we work with Viacom, America Mobile, are really seeing results, really impacting their ROI using AI. And I think that you guys as business owners, you need to do is really make an impact internally on your organization, maybe a small impact, but something that really makes the difference compared with how you usually make businesses and scale that use case to the rest of the organization. That's what we do.
So Ben, let's talk a little bit about, when we were talking over your panel, I was wondering what you do in trying to differentiate what you do from product placement. We've all heard about product placement for 100 years. You do something different and you would say better. So explain what your company does and how it does it.
Okay. So basically, product placement today in TV and movies and many other places is not personalized. It's not automated. The creatives are not standard. The way it's displayed is not standard. And this created a lot of problems because it's not scalable. It's a very hard sell to the advertisers. It's a lot of hard work from the publisher. And we believe it could be done differently. So what we did is we took the standard ad formats of banners, videos, native ads, and we created interactive ad units that can implement, so to speak, like a programmatic product placement. So it can be sold in a standard way using the ad exchanges in a programmatic way to the highest bidder. It could be measured according to the industry standards and even higher. And it can be, because of the way we standardized it, it can work with all the tech vendors like brand safety, brand lift measurement, and all of this together combined becomes very powerful offering to the brands and agencies on the one side, and very standard and easy way for the publishers to get started. And we believe that this is the key of making this, to making gaming and esports, which is a huge media, but now to also make it very accessible and easy for the advertisers and brands to actually go into it.
You decided to sign it, knocked it over.
Yeah. So, you know, something that we learn about the brands and the agencies is that they really want innovation. They want to reach new audiences. They want to do it in exciting new ways on the one side, but on the other, they don't want to change anything in the way they work, the tools they use, and the creatives they use, and the standards that they already know. And we got that. And our main challenge that we believe we managed to solve was connecting this media to the entire digital advertising ecosystem, its tech vendors. So for the first time, you can take this kind of campaign and compare it apple to a standard 2D banner compared to the 3D immersive banner.
So now, on the consumer side, what's the consumer see that's different, that's exciting, that matters to him or her as they're using your blended gaming versus traditional product placement?
So I think the main side on the user, you know, people don't hate ads. People hate bad ads. And part of a bad ad is an ad that is really not relevant to you. So if I will show you, you know, product placement, because of the way it's done today, you can show one ad to a very diversified audience. So by definition, there will be some people in the audience that it's very not relevant to. So they will get upset or really don't like it. But when I can hit and personalize each individual impression and target it to the right person, this become a very powerful tool of making it like a way to really improve the user experience and make it much more acceptable for the user. And you know, Facebook have taught us that in the end, people prefer free product instead of paid ones, right? So let's say, according to a Facebook research, 76% of the people will prefer a free product with ads rather than a paid product without ads.
So, you know, how do you avoid the creepy factor? So I buy these shoes from Nordstrom's, and in the next month and a half, I'm followed by these shoes on everything, on every page I go. Can you find a way to, while I'm in my game, my shoes don't show up on the game I'm playing, and I'm not being creeped out?
So, you know, today, all of the channels in the media work together, using retargeting, and most of the budgets from brands are actually going intensively to retargeting because it's one of the best way to boost brand consideration. And we believe that by becoming part of it and leveraging all the powerful tools from the DSPs, the data management platforms together, and AI, by the way, this together will create very relevant ads that will not be creepy because it will give you what you need when you need it. And this is the key of making it a good user experience, which is not creepy to the user.
So, Will, we're talking a little bit about, you guys are relatively new in the AI space. This is something that's new to you guys. So how are you using AI today? And in terms of how you're going to move from what you're doing today to where you expect to be in a year or two?
Yeah, so I mean, AI has been pretty helpful for us this past year. We use it in some elements of the business, but it's more like how we're planning on using it for the future. So part of our day-to-day business is actually writing questions for clients and trivia questions to see what's relevant to their brand and if it's going to be meaningful in the audience feedback. We have AI that we use. It analyzes how difficult the question is going to be to predict how many people are going to get it right or wrong, as well as AI on the back end to detect if it's bottable or Googleable, and how to overcome those problems. In the longer term, we see AI being really helpful and actually using some of the previous data we've done to come in and write the questions for us and generate questions specific to people that pique their interest. So similar to an advertisement placement to where you guys would serve Adidas ad versus Nike, we could ask a question to brands that were specific to you that you actually cared about. So the brand on the back end comes and we know those via previous audience engagements and interactions.
That's pretty cool. Now, with each of you, there's a little bit of less with regard to Jump maybe, but with the others, there's a little bit of a privacy question here because, as you know, everywhere, whether it's Europe, Australia, the United States, New York State, California, everybody's looking at different privacy laws. How is what you're doing with AI comporting with privacy? Are you concerned at all about what's happening globally with regard to privacy and how it's going to impact the use of AI?
Yeah, it's super important to us. I mean, some of our biggest customers are in the UK, so GDPR compliance is something that we have to be super aware of and make sure we're compliant to support those. I mean, everything we do is we're looking at it in mind to be protective and make sure everyone's happy and we can serve as many customers as possible. And we've had to learn way too much about that space.
Do you see a path to success, or are you still worried that this is still kind of we're in a little bit of a free-for-all right now in terms of where it's going to end up?
I think it's definitely the Wild West thing. More and more people are becoming more and more concerned with their privacy and who has access to their data. I'd expect a little bit of crackdowns on it and how AI leverages that data eventually, but for probably another year or so, we're going to be hanging out in the Wild West.
It was a long ride learning all about GDPR and making sure we are compliant. I think any tech company really felt it when it started. But I think we kind of took a different kind of approach. And in our case, what we did was actually storing the data in the client side, so we can actually do the targeting in the client side and not have the data on the server, so the advertiser can get super targeted, very advanced targeting capabilities on the one side, and on the other, we won't be creating like a massive database that crawls on everyone. And I think this is the kind of balance that can create a win-win between the need of the advertiser to reach a very specific audience on the one side and the need of the users to keep their privacy and have it in one locked place, in this case, their device.
Our view on this topic is that, of course, you need to be GDPR compliant. Europe, it's been very hard in how to push this to the AI ecosystem and big data ecosystem in general. But from the user's perspective, I think there's two factors. One is if you provide a real value to the end consumer, all of us are willing to, provide a certain level of our data that it's private if you really get back something that is valuable for you. This is number one. The second is that I think new generations are not really, they don't really care about privacy. And that's something that also, maybe not now, but in 10 years, it's going to be relaxed a bit. People, what we will ask is for control of their data and what they want to do with that. It's going to be an asset, and I think even an asset they can commerce with, the individuals. So I think as far as transparency is there, and of course not at the limit, but a certain level of regulations, it's not going to be an issue for the AI development at all.
So, we do have a global panel, and I hadn't thought of this question until this thing. We've got Madrid, Tel Aviv, and where in the United States are you?
Charleston, South Carolina.
And South, which is almost another country. My family's from South Carolina, so I know a lot about South Carolina. But as y'all do, you're all running global businesses. I mean, you work with anybody anywhere who's in this space. Do you find different approaches to AI? Do you find that the business models or the receptivity to your product offerings vary, or is there one market or several markets that are more eager to get into this, or is it pretty much, no matter where you go, people are just interested in what you're doing?
For us, not as much on the global side of where they're located, but more on what their focus is. So from a media company, working with them, they're not as concerned on AI as necessarily a brand and how that brand can optimize their ad strategy and their targeting to impact their end audience. So it really just comes down to how technical they're plugged in. But from a location standpoint, we haven't really seen that being too big of a driver.
We see AI, taking over any aspect of our life slowly by slowly. We are still there's still some time before we are going to see robots with AI taking over everything, but we do see it creeping in and getting better over time. And today, I think there isn't any major let's say, a big marketplace or technology vendor that doesn't do any kind of use of AI. for us specifically, we saw the biggest challenges to how to take the 3D game world, which is unpredicted. When you have a 2D web page, you know that the user is going to scroll from the top to the bottom, and along the way, you know exactly where the ad placements are going to be. So it's a very relatively simple challenge for an AI to solve. But in our case, where you have an open world and the user can, and we are running on a very tight environment, gaming eats all the memory and the CPU, and you have to be very, very under very tight constraints. Our main challenges was how can we leverage AI to predict where the user is going to be, so we can sell these specific spots before it's going to happen, so we can create a more efficient media buying service. For example, this is the kind of challenges we are trying to deal with AI, and this is, for example, something that AI can be very good at, but there are stuff that AI is very bad at. Like, we've been in the IBM accelerator and we tried to use AI, specifically Watson, to kind of analyze the game environment so we can create contextual understanding of the objects and their surrounding, and we saw it just miserably failed because there's very little trained modeled on computer graphics environment, and just the time and the amount of data that it will take to create such a model, and the environment is so different for one another. So this is an example where we see AI not doing a very good job. So it really depends on the use case, but as time will progress and AI frameworks and algorithms will become better, it will definitely take over more parts of because in the end, any tech company, the only way to become efficient is automation, and automation needs AI. So I think it's just a matter of time before we see more and more places where we see AI, but at this point, there are still challenges that are just too big for it.
So actually, I think I agree with both of you. So first of all, it's all about the use case. So customers are not really asking help for AI. They're really asking help for something concrete, and they don't really care. So what is behind that? And the other thing, it's pretty relevant what you said. So data training in AI is the key. If you don't have it, you are not going to be successful. So I think in the future we are going to see more and more companies collaborating in the training algorithms without sharing data. So this is something actually we are doing with our customers. We provide recommendation engine for the video space. And what we do is that we train the recommendation engine with all our customers' data, and we tell them very clearly, if you want to be part of the party, you need to let us also train the algorithm with your data for other customers. So you will perform better than if I just train the algorithm with your data. And believe it or not, typically customers are okay with that. As far as you don't share data, it's just training the algorithms, it's okay. So I think this model, it's going to happen and it's going to expand more and more because that's true, that without tons of data for training, AI is not effective.
So, we've all probably seen the movie The Graduate. I was with a bunch of high school kids going into college. If I told them that the future belongs to data analysts, would you agree that that's probably where we're headed as a society, that data analytics has just become more and more powerful in almost every part of our businesses?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, every decision we make as a business is based off data. It's no guesses. We have data that proves that this is the way we should go, or this is an intelligent direction. We may not know it, but there's data behind it that's leading our decisions, everything we make.
Data is becoming the new currency, and we're seeing it over the years just getting more and more intense. And what companies like Facebook and Google have taught us that always a free product with ton of data will be much more valuable than a paid product with no data. And they keep teaching us that over and over again with any service that comes out. And this is why I believe that new ways to analyze data and get meaning and make it valuable is definitely the key. So, I believe that the people that can work with data and get a meaning are definitely the people that will show the most value.
Actually, I think it gives a lot of freedom to business guys to use AI, because it's how they can really focus on the human part of the decision making that machines are not gonna do it, because we all are human beings. We have some unpredictable behaviors as well. But you can automate, and I mean the algorithms can learn from you about how you typically make decisions for not core activities or decision makers that we do on our daily basis. So then you will have more time for really focusing on what is important. And I think we will see more and more algorithms and really software that is going to be trained regarding how I behave, and then will ask us to do nothing for certain activities.
So I told each of us was going to ask you one question. We've got about 3 minutes left, so in a minute each, tell me a client that's using your services that you've delighted, and why and how they were delighted by using your service.
Okay, so one of our biggest customers, it's the Carlos Slim Ventures. So it's America Mobile that we process for them like 25 million subscribers data on daily basis in half an hour. So these guys are using AI in a very smart way. That is, personalization for them is key because they have the biggest OTT service in Latin America, competing face to face with Netflix. That it's it's difficult. And while these guys are using, how these guys are using personalization is really interesting because they are personalizing the online experience, but also the offline experience. So they are using AI to trigger to you recommendations, but also they are using AI for triggering to you recommendations when you receive email marketing campaigns or when you receive push notifications. And if you usually watch movies at 10 p.m. at night, they will send you push notifications at 9:45 asking you to watch a movie that it's pretty related to what you typically watch. So they are improving like in 25% the consumption using actually this engine with AI.
I think that we work with two sides, like the advertisers and the publisher. So, for example, one of our publishers, Ubisoft, the main use cases that the ability to make their activity in the esports area on the one side much more scalable in terms of sponsorships and the ability to offer bundles of physical ads and digital measurable ads with ROI data. And this combination proved very successful in their case. In addition, I think that one of the most unique things that we can do is the ability to monetize game video content in a scalable way so that esports professional players and pro streamers and social influencers in the gaming space can actually monetize in a scalable way, in a way that is programmatic and standard, so they can get sponsorship budgets in a much easier and scalable way. And this is something that can really help develop the industry on the one side, and on the other to help this pro athlete really build their career. And this is something we really like to see, and we work with several streamers also directly while we're evaluating this, and we are seeing very nice results there. And on the advertising side, you have all the Fortune 500 brands that really want to reach young audiences today, but they have a lot of problem with that because the main channels are like streaming, social, and gaming. Now, streaming got, like, for example, YouTube, a couple of scandals lately with what kind of issues with teen nudity and other things that are really frightening the brands, and they should, and user-generated content, which is not brand safe. So this is one part of it, why they're afraid. And then you have social media, which is, in the end, fake news and so many scandals around data privacy and stuff like that, which also really frighten them. So this leaves gaming, but gaming is empty. It's very hard to get into in a scalable way. So we believe, from our work with them, that this is something that can really help them.
Cool. So for us, this past year, we made News Corp really happy, leveraging AI throughout the question writing sets, how I mentioned before, to help them identify if questions would be difficult to answer or not. and we'll continue doing that for customers in the future.
Thank you for joining us. Sorry we don't have time for audience questions, but they've given us a hook. I'm sure any of the three gentlemen are here to answer any questions you might have. Thanks for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.